Godbrother Jayadvaita Swami. Uh, momentarily,
Yes,
I
he's
saw
online.
it. Yes, all right. My obeisances to him and any other of my
I thought I
godbrothers.
saw my.
Obeisances, obeisances.
Reminds me of a story before I begin. I often tell, but I don't think I've ever told it in New Jersey. And you all there are so fortunate to have His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj there so frequently. Are you still based there, Maharaj?
I think Maharaj is muted. I'm trying to unmute him.
Okay. Is he still he's still based in New Jersey?
He's sequestered in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm based here as long as coronavirus is basing me here.
Ah,
And
okay.
they're taking care of me nicely, so I'm not complaining.
I am so happy to hear that. And I'm sure the whole state is resonating with transcendental knowledge and exemplary Vaishnava wonders. If you'll permit me, Maharaj, I'll briefly tell them a story, especially, you know, that recording of the famous nationwide David Susskind show has reemerged. And that was the first time I ever laid eyes on then Jayadvaita Das Brahmachari. This was a nationwide TV show back in 71 and 72. David Susskind was the king of the news world. That's back when everyone would watch the news at 6 p.m. before all this cable TV and multifarious news media, CNN, Fox TV, before all that. They were the big Mahajans, maybe 2 or 3 of them. So David Susskind was one of them. And he decided with his special feature show to focus on the Hare Krishnas. So I didn't see the original show in 1971. I saw a rerun in May of 1972. I was studying for my final exams at Yale, and my roommate was studying for his physics exams, and we decided to turn on the television to get some relief. And my roommate had a color TV, which was a rarity back then. And so we wanted to, you know, take advantage of the facility and, hey, turn on the tube and get some relief from all these pressures from exams. And then what appears on the screen? These strange looking aliens wearing funny clothes. And from our point of view, as uncivilized Americans, there were so many ladies, looked nice, but they're all covered up completely. We couldn't understand what's wrong with these women. Now, as I often explain, because we were Yale students, we refused to watch television in the ordinary way. We had to distinguish ourselves from the proletariat, from the masses. And so we would watch television with the volume turned all the way down and then speculate on what was happening. And that way we would demonstrate our Ivy League pedigree, not simply Ivy League, but top of the Ivy League. So that's what we were doing. So when I saw these Martians, these aliens, I turned to my flatmate and said, we can't figure out what this is all about. I think we're going to have to turn the volume up. So we did that. And then we heard their talk. And when I watched this show a few days ago for the first time in, I guess, almost 50 years, I was so impressed by the purity, clarity, and simplicity of the devotees. They were just radiating Prabhupada's Sangha, Prabhupada's blessings. They were just giving straight answers without blinking an eye and full of enthusiasm. We offer the food to Krishna. And I remember I was watching Jayadvaita Das Brahmacharya and explaining, and then we take the remnants. No hesitation about not explaining what are remnants, but just the enthusiasm and the sincerity was so contagious as I look at it now. But when I saw it back then in May of 72, I was thinking, where are these guys at? This is unreal. I could never live like this. And then I particularly focused on Jayadvaita Das Brahmachari. I said, look at this guy with the glasses. He's lit up like a Christmas tree. What's he so happy about? And then they had devotees like Rupa Nuga, Rukmini Devi Dasi, Yogamaya Devi Dasi, Bhagavan Das, Yogeshwar Das, Bharadwaj Das, and they were all speaking so sincerely. But when they described their lifestyle, I turned to my roommate and I still remember my lamentable words. I said, these people have missed the goal of life. They have no idea what they're doing. They keep using the word bliss over and over again. That much I picked up. We're in bliss, do this and you'll be blissful. They keep talking about bliss. I tell you what, I said to my roommate, we'll invite them to one of our parties. We'll teach them what bliss is. 9 months later, I was in the Brahmacharya ashram. What happened? Just 9 months later, in February of 73. What happened was Srila Prabhupada's mercy coming through his books. And what triggered my taking shelter of his books was seeing those devotees on television, even though it seemed I had an unfavorable reaction. I thought their sincerity was so strange. And what came to my mind is, well, what are they doing about the problems of the world? As if I were doing something about the problems of the world. But anyway, what practicality do they have to offer? So we watched the whole show, including ecstatic kirtan, because David Susskind wanted to see, what's this chanting all about? Can you demonstrate? And without a hesitation, all the devotees jump up and do a rip-roaring kirtan. Just, this is nationwide TV, you know, and they just have no hesitation, no reservation. I don't know what ISKCON Communications would say about this this TV show today, because no one was saying politically correct buzzwords or nothing. It was just pure Hare Krishna enthusiasm, repeating whatever Prabhupada said. They would give the same exact explanations, no enhancements, no hand holding. But what I did remember, what did hold the hand of the viewer was such an overwhelming sincerity, clarity and simplicity and depth at the same time. I just thought, this is too strange. Who could ever think to live in that way? What happened a month later, after graduation? I was going to visit some friends in Jersey City. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Taking the tube from Manhattan to Jersey City, Journal Square. I got off at Journal Square and I emerged and I saw in the distance a brahmachari dressed like those same strange people I saw on TV, and he was holding some books. He did not approach me. I walked over to him and said, "Well, what do you have there?" Obviously, I was intrigued by what I saw on the television show. Otherwise, as I said, he did not approach me. I walked all the way over to the other side of the Journal Square setup and asked him, "What do you have there?" It was a Sankirtan devotee who looked like he was having a tough day. He was a new devotee and he was looking a bit down. And so he was shocked when someone just comes up to him and says, "What do you have there?" So I purchased Transcendental Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. Little booklet, you'll find it's there on the Veda vase. And it consists of edited version of Prabhupada's lectures on the instructions by Prahlad Maharaj to his demonic schoolmates. So I went to my friend's house and my friend was occupied doing something else. I sat down on the couch and started reading the Transcendental Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. By page 2, I had collapsed on the couch. Prabhupada was quoting, paraphrasing Prahlad Maharaj, that why should you work so hard to get the same benefits that the cats and dogs get? I felt like I was hit in the chest by a freight train. So on page 2, I decided tomorrow I'm going to Greenwich Village. That's where all the esoteric bookshops are. I know exactly where to go. I'm going to get more books by this Swami whose name I can't pronounce. So then I did that the next day. I purchased Macmillan, the blue Bhagavad Gita, the abridged one, and also an abridged version of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It was in the form of a booklet, a very reduced version. So I took those to where I was staying, 90th Street in Central Park West, my father's apartment. And I started reading and I said, I've never read anything like this. I've spent 4 years at one of the premier institutions in the world. And I've never heard someone speak with such authority and depth. Someone actually thinks they know what they're talking about and can actually go out on a limb and just say, this is the way it is. And where is this knowledge coming from? I've got to get more of this. But I can't take the risk in approaching those strange Hare Krishnas. I don't know what they're up to, but their literature is just unparalleled. So I don't know what I'll do. I'll order the books from their publishing house. So I wrote a letter to the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust asking, I'd like more books by this Swami. And from then on, every week I would order more and more books. I had everything that was published by them. Nectar Devotion, Krishna book, Ishopanishad, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And I would just read and read and read 4 hours a day for 6 months straight. But I wouldn't want to approach any devotees. Then finally in November of 72, after months of reading and rereading 4 hours a day, I got a message, a letter from the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust announcing the publishing for the first time in the West of the, how do we describe it? The edition of the first canto that was enhanced and improved in terms of Prabhupada's original Delhi printed Srimad Bhagavatam. So I said, this sounds inconceivably amazing. I can't wait for this to come in the mail. the BBT was presenting it in their flyer, in their brochure that they sent me as the encyclopedia of the spiritual world. I said to myself, this is amazing. You mean this is going to take all the themes of Bhagavad Gita and expand upon them? I can't wait. I've got to have this. So I said to myself, you're going to have to take the risk of approaching a devotee, those strange persons. Oh, what to do? Those impractical persons who have no solutions for the world's problems. Problems that you yourself, of course, are constantly thinking of, sure. And you yourself have so many solutions for sure. So I got on the train, 90th Street, and went to Port Authority because I knew that devotees regularly are there in Port Authority bus terminal distributing their books. So I did that, and I saw one lady devotee. I walked past her once to see if she would stop me. No. I walked past her twice to see if she would stop me. No. I said, okay, I guess I've got to walk up to her and have a brief encounter. This was my god sister, Devi Shakti Mataji, who has been in Vrindavan for, 40, 45 years. So I walked up to her and I asked what I thought was a routine question. I asked her, my first words, I said, do you have Srimad Bhagavatam? Her mouth just dropped. I didn't realize, of course, that this is not an everyday question, that someone on the streets of New York just walks up to you and asks, do you have Srimad Bhagavatam? Her mouth dropped, and then being an expert Sankara devotee, she quickly recovered. Oh, and how do you know about that? I said, I'm not here to answer any questions. I just want to know, do you have the book? But really, tell me, how do you know all about this? Again, I told her, look, do you have the book or do you not? She wouldn't answer the question. And then she said, I think you'd be interested to hear what we're trying to do here in New York. I said, I'm not interested in anything that you all do. I just like your books. I don't want to be like you. I don't want to become one of you. Can you please answer my question? No. Look, I've got a brochure for you. It talks about how we're trying to get a new building in New York. You could probably help with that. I said, what do you mean I help? I'm 21 years old, just graduated from university. I've got no intention to help anyone. But look at this brochure. We want a library, a restaurant, a theater, a place where persons like you could come and freely just take advantage of the place. You would like this. And so the whole topic of the book was forgotten. And she went on a 20-minute talk about the new building that they're trying to get and that I should help. I don't know why she did it. I guess you could say I was kind of fashionably attired, I'm embarrassed to say, and probably looked like I had some money, although I didn't think that. Anyway, she went on and on. I think that you can give a donation. I said, me give a donation? I've never given anyone a penny in my life in charity, and I don't plan to start now. No, I think you can help. I said, look, I tell you what, if I have something, I'll leave it to you in my will. Said, oh, God, you're 21 years old. You don't have a will. I tried this way and that way to escape. She wouldn't let me off the hook. And then finally, I made a big mistake. I said, even if I wanted to give you money, it's at my father's house. And He lives all the way up on 90th Street. She said, let's go. No, oh no. I'm supposed to go to the Upper West Side, 90th and Central Park West, and be seen with this strange looking girl who's wearing a yellow bed sheet. Because back then, you see, there weren't the whole multitude of saris from India. So generally, the ladies, if they were married, wore yellow bed sheets, and if they were unmarried, they wore pink bed sheets. And everyone wore gray sweatshirts, gray hoodies. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to take this young lady to my neighborhood and be embarrassed. I'm going to be embarrassed in front of all my neighbors, what to speak of my family. No way. But she was determined. Come on, let's go. So we got on the subway and we went to where I stayed. I told her, because my father's apartment was up on the 14th floor, so you stay on the sidewalk. Don't even come in the lobby with me. I'll go upstairs and I'll get something. So I went upstairs, came down with a check already written out. In today's financial value, I handed her a check worth $10,000, according to today's worth of $1. She took it very graciously and looked at it and said, I think you can double this. Oh no, are you kidding me? I think you can double this. I couldn't believe it. So then, now I recognize Super Soul tricked me. This was, I have to say, it was divine intervention upon my worthless self. I heard a voice in my heart saying, you are on the sidewalk surrounded by these tall apartment buildings. Everyone is watching you from their ceiling to floor windows, you know. They're all looking at you, talking to this strange girl. You'd better give her what she wants and get rid of her quick. Of course, I didn't know anyone in the neighborhood. It's New York, Manhattan, you know. But looking back now, I see I was, you know, Mata Smritiya Gyanam Apohanam Cha. Krishna's in the heart. From him comes all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So I was bewildered. Oh no, I've got to give her something, get rid of her quick. Everyone is looking down from the apartments. They're seeing me talking to this girl with a yellow bed sheet and a strange mark on her forehead and a gray hoodie sweatshirt. And oh no, I went back upstairs, came down with another check. And in today's value of the dollar, that means I gave her a total of $20,000. Then she told me, look, you know, you've given so much money. Why don't you come to the temple and see what it's like? I said, that's right. She said, you should see where your money is going to. You've never even been. I had never, ever been to a Hare Krishna gathering, Bhakti Vriksha, temple, Sunday peace, nothing. And then she said, you should come and see. You know, you've given, you know, $20,000. And she said, oh, by the way, you are now a life member. I said, what's that? She said, you can travel to any of our temples in the world and you can stay there and you can get special vegetarian food that's directly offered to the deity. So I don't understand about this food, but traveling to, yeah, I always plan to do that. That sounds like the first practical thing I've heard in this whole encounter. So she said, look, next week, why don't you come to the temple? I said, where is it? She said, Brooklyn. Brooklyn! I never go to Brooklyn. Come on, I'm a Manhattanite. Come on, this is 90th and Central Park West. You want me to come to Brooklyn? I said, where in Brooklyn? He said, oh, Tiffany Street or something. Henry Street. How do you get there? Oh, you take, the GG subway or something. I said, this sounds like a real Arctic expedition to me. Anyway, the next week I did do that. I was full of fear. I had no idea what I was going to encounter. I remember as I got off the subway and walked, as I got closer to the temple, I could smell the incense 1 block away. What's that? And then I heard this ching, 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 exotic sound. I was very nervous as I walked up the steps to the temple. I opened the door, and at that time they had an official greeter there, a godbrother named Chandrasekhar Prabhu, tall and very outgoing. As soon as they opened the door, there he was. Welcome, brother. You've come to the right place. Come on in. Take off your shoes. Go in the temple room. Move your feet around to the music. So all my anxieties, my worries were dissipated. So looking at this David Susskind show, and especially hearing once again our Jayadvaita Swami's presentation, I could see that Prabhupada empowered devotees with such extraordinary abilities, even those who so far haven't survived going the distance, because they allowed themselves to be used by Prabhupada. They were radiating such Shakti. Extraordinarily amazing. So I had that good fortune of being treated that way by devotees, welcoming. And I remember my first few Sunday feasts there, I would single out, he probably doesn't remember it. Jayadvaita Maharaj probably doesn't remember it. I would single him out because I remembered him from the TV show. I remember even once, obnoxiously or proudly saying something to him like, I wanted to show him my knowledge. I read those prayers, those 8 prayers by Lord Chaitanya. Have you ever thought of publishing them as a booklet? And he just matter of fact told me, that's a very good idea. I will consider it. So I would always single him out. And then when I became a brahmachari, there was always a contest amongst the young brahmacharis. Back then there was Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, there was Dravida Prabhu, there was Agni Dev Prabhu, so many of us. So there was a time during breakfast where every breakfast was halava and sweet rice. But we knew that the senior Vaishnavas would not, for some mysterious reason, eat all their halava. So the trick was to get a spot on the floor next to a senior Vaishnav, because the senior Vaishnav would always cut his mound of halava in half and not take it all. And then you could, by sitting next to the senior Vaishnav, you could, Prabhu, can I take that? So Jayadvaita Das Brahmachari was high on our list. You got to sit next to him because he'll never eat all his halava. So I had opportunity many times. I would sit next to him ostensibly to get his sangha, but always keeping an eye on how much of his halava he was actually eating. So those are some memories that viewing the David Susskind show. It's available on YouTube now for the past few months. Those are some memories that viewing it brought back to me. It shows me how important outreach is, initial contact with devotees, even though that initial contact may seem unfavorable. Things can go the other way also. Since we're sharing, and Nilamani Prabhu's caught me by surprise. Anyway, I was just watching last week a YouTube video of my youngest brother, and I'll explain why I'm telling this. It's not for a mundane reason. My youngest brother, he is a chief administrative officer for Toyota North America, including Canada, US, and Mexico. So there he is at the White House, invited by the president for the purpose of discussing reopening America. So I remembered a story he told me after the event. He was a student at Harvard Law. He had received a scholarship to Harvard Law by being #1 in the USA for debate. So he didn't even apply to Harvard Law. They called him up and said, hey, you're coming here. Whatever money you need, no problem, you are coming. So while at Harvard Law, and he never told me this until after, he was studying ISKCON court cases, thinking he would be ISKCON's lawyer. He wasn't interested in the theology. He just thought this would be the most interesting career. Instead of just dry corporate law, I could be dealing with trend-setting cases. He studied the Sankirtan airport cases. He studied the brainwashing cases. And then, without telling me, one day he walks over from Cambridge, where Harvard is, to the Boston Temple. And he knocks on the door. Hey, here he is, a clean-cut guy, you know. He knocks on the door. Someone opens the door, and he says, he doesn't say he's my brother. That's the whole older brother, younger brother thing, you know. So he says, my name is so-and-so. I'm a Harvard Law student. I've been studying ISKCON court cases very extensively. I'd like to know if you could use any legal help. Nope, we have our own lawyer. That was it. Didn't even invite him in. He was crushed. I guess you could say too much ego or whatever, but he was crushed. He didn't tell me this until 5 years later. So that's another angle in how hospitality can bring you in or drive you away. So he married a Harvard Law graduate. That's 2 of them. And now there he is, holding forth at the White House. Let's see if we can still kind of bring him some service and get him to do something. He actually has done something under the table as assistant U.S. attorney on Wall Street under Rudolph Giuliani. Yeah, he did a lot of finagling so that New Vrindavan would not lose its property. When I remind him of what he did these days, he, in a typical lawyer's way, says, I don't remember. But anyway, he did do some service, but I'd like to see that he does more service. Just when I was giving up hope on him, last year, my 60-year-old sister on my birthday calls me up and says, I haven't told you this, but I've been following your lectures on YouTube. Today's your birthday, and I want you to know I'm chanting 16 rounds and following the regular principles. I've talked to her for less than 1 hour in 42 years. So you just don't know how things are going to turn out. Who would have ever thought that judging by my initial reaction to the David Susskind show, who'd ever thought that I would have been favorable in any way or purchased books? Who would have ever thought that my sister would do what she's doing now. And that was October, 7 or 8 months ago. She's rising in the morning at 4 a.m. and chanting all her rounds, and reads Bhagavatam for a minimum of 1 hour a day, most of the time more. I couldn't have predicted this. And someone could have said that about me. Someone did say it about me. When I told this story to His Holiness Bhakti Tarup Maharaj, the story of my watching David Susskind and my reactions and dealing with devotees, he's usually very, as you all know, Bhakti Tarup Maharaj is very sweet and very careful about what he says, but he couldn't stop himself from blurting out, "Now I know anyone can become a devotee." When I remind him of that statement, he said, "Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say that." So what prompted this whole discussion actually was my reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And I made a presentation last weekend for the Central New Jersey Temple about Prahlad Maharaj. We're dealing with the aftermath of Lord Nrsimha's appearance. And so, again, more of Jayadvaita Swami's handiwork. I told the devotees at Central New Jersey, their audience, that I consider Brihad Bhagavatamrita to be the gold standard for all publications of Shastra done after Prabhupada's presence with us. It is so exquisite, and it's setting the standard for all publications to follow. And at the BBT, I'm involved with successive publications, and we always hold the Brihad Bhagavatamrita on high. Like, we've got to hit that mark with Laghu Bhagavatamrita, with Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's taking up so much of our time. We've taken the prototype version by Bhanu Swami and turbocharged it, enhanced it, enlarged it, and it's going to come out to be 5 volumes of 1,000 pages each. And we put so much effort into it. It's taking like 3 years or so. So Brihad Bhagavatamrita gives us the quest for who is the best devotee. I was discussing with Central New Jersey about Lord Shiva first presenting to Narada Muni that Lakshmi Devi is the one. She's always on the chest of Narayan. And just when Narada Muni is about to take off for Vaikuntha to get the darshan of Lakshmi Devi, Lord Shiva tells him, "Actually, come closer. I need to whisper something in your ear. Something I don't want my wife Parvati to hear because she's friends with Mahalakshmi. I want to tell you that there's someone even more dear, a devotee, than Lakshmi Devi. It's Prahlad. But if my wife Parvati hears me saying this, she'll get an attitude, and she may become disrespectful to me, her husband, as well as to you, Narada Muni. So I'm speaking very quietly." So Lord Shiva begins to describe the glories of Prahlad. And he warns Narada Muni, when you see Prahlad, don't glorify him directly. He'll be embarrassed. Now remember that Narada Muni is Prahlad's Diksha Guru. But Brihad Bhagavatamrita is dealing with ecstasies that are amazing. And Narada Muni goes racing off to find Prahlad. And Prahlad is seeing his guru coming from afar and is trying to pay his obeisances and offer Narada Muni a seat, and Narada Muni is just embracing him in ecstatic love. You are the best devotee. You are the best devotee. Now, Prahlad Maharaj is trying to offer the articles of puja for Guru Puja, but he can't do that because Narada Muni is just pouring out so much bhakti appreciation based on what Narada Muni's heard from Lord Shiva. So I went through Narada Muni's presentation, and then it's time for Prahlad's rebuttal. And this is going to be very interesting because the disciple is going to give a rebuttal of what his guru has said about him. Very interesting. Narada Muni had pointed out that, Prahlad, you're always remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prahlad, you were preaching at 5 years of age and converted many of your demoniac associates. Prahlad, you withstood the tortures of your father. On and on and on, Narada Muni went. And then Prahlad had had enough. He's embarrassed. He bows down before Narada Muni and in a quiet voice begins to reply to everything Narada Muni has said, and Prahlad wants to let him know it's not true, or it's partially true, or even if some things you've said are true, we don't want to make too big of a deal about it. So Prahlad begins by saying, my Lord, my spiritual master, please reconsider everything you've said. A young boy simply cannot understand correctly the science of devotional service to Krishna. Prahlad is going to account for any supposed spiritual assets he has by saying they're all coming from Narada Muni. If they are for real, if anything I have about me is bhakti genuine, it's coming from Narada Muni, not from me. He doesn't want to hear that he's a great devotee. Now, Sanatana Goswami's commentary, adapted by Gopi Prananda Prabhu, points out that Prahlad only denies some of Narada Muni's claims about Prahlad's greatness. Others he deflects or puts in a different light. He says, I could only withstand the tortures of Hiranyakashipu because of the internal potency of the Lord, not so much something to do with me personally. It's the protection that the Lord awards all his devotees. Yes, some of the Daitya demon children became devotees by my preaching, but why do you make such a big thing about that? When you want to talk to children, it's very easy to get another child to do that. That doesn't mean I'm special. I was just sent to do child's work. Why make me into a big preacher when I'm just like a prop in a play, a necessary prop, because I'm a kid and I'm talking to other kids. As far as my ecstatic chanting and dancing in remembrance of Krishna, it's a natural effect of pure bhakti. Doesn't mean I'm great in any way. Lord Nrsingadev and Narada Muni deserve all the credit. So Prahlad is just beginning. He wants to establish that he has not received Krishna's special mercy. Only a proper candidate can receive Krishna's special mercy, Prahlad says. And he says, I'm not a proper candidate. So why, merely by looking at my so-called ecstatic symptoms, should you should you conclude that I am a great devotee? You're misreading the whole situation, or you're exaggerating. It's very interesting, the disciple dealing with the spiritual master in such a way. I want to point out, just as a sidelight, and it's very tiny and it's curious. One devotee told me very emphatically that she had a dream of Srila Prabhupada, very vivid. And of course, dreams of Srila Prabhupada are not ordinary. We don't take them as Shastra, but in terms of personal realization, especially for devotees who never saw Prabhupada when he's physically present, who weren't around at that time, when they have a dream of Prabhupada, they know, I can't make this up. I've never seen him before in my life. So this devotee was saying that I happened to be giving class. And as I was giving class, when she was present, Prabhupada walks in the room. And according to her dream, he says to me, thank you for coming with me. And I reply, no, Srila Prabhupada, thank you for picking me up. And then, according to her dream, Prabhupada responds, oh, you dare correct me? You become so big now that you're going to correct me? I was, in her dream, I was shaking like, oh. And according to her dream, Prabhupada breaks out in a smile and says, actually, you always say whatever I say, but you just say it in your own way. So my point is that in a much, much, much greater context, here you have Prahlad Maharaj editing Narada Muni. Sometimes editing the books is a controversy, or as we say down under, a controversy. Everything depends on the relationship between the disciple and the guru. And here Prahlad is venturing out on a limb, and he's refuting things, he's editing things, he's changing things that Narada Muni said. Prahlad goes on. I have never performed any real service for the Lord like Hanuman and others. I've only remembered the Lord sometimes when my mind was troubled. You see, Narada Muni had presented Prahlad as being undisturbed by material setbacks, always remaining fixed in meditation on the Supreme Lord. And Prahlad's reply, I'm only practicing meditation. I haven't yet become proficient as a meditator. I've never done any service. I may have done some meditation. I may have remembered the Lord, but I've never engaged in active service like Hanuman and others. This is the first time that Prahlad is going to mention the person he's going to move Narada Muni onto. I haven't reached the stature of Hanuman. Now, Narada Muni had pointed out, Prahlad, look at the situation. No demigods could pacify Lord Nrsingadev. Only you could do that by your presence. That's why Lord Brahma pushed you forward. And we all know what happened, Prahlad, when you fell at the feet of Lord Nrsingadev. He picked you up, and the Shastras explain he started rocking you back and forth on his lap and patting you on the head with his hand. And he was even licking your whole body like a lioness does for her cub. Prahlad, how can you deny this? You have received such extraordinary mercy. But Prahlad replies, some consider such affectionate behavior to be merely a false show of Maya, and others consider it just a display of your pastimes. So Prahlad's referring to Mayavadis who say all the Leelas are just Brahman taking form in the mode of goodness, performing material activities at the peak of the material world, the mode of goodness. So Prahlad is saying some consider this affectionate behavior to be illusory. Others say, even though it's real, this behavior is just happening because the Lord's fulfilling his own purposes of enjoyment. He's only pretending to care about me. The real thing is that he's fulfilling his Leela. That's all. And Prahlad's got an answer for everything. Now, he says, Narada Muni, you consider such a display of affection as a natural symptom of the Lord's love. But I say it's nothing more than a dream. I don't say it's unreal, but it's like a dream because it happens so quickly. In other words, Prahlad's saying, I'm not like a Mayavadi. I'm not saying the Lord's affairs and appearances and activities are illusory. I'm just saying it's like a dream because the whole incident happened in a flash. And then Prahlad once again refers to Hanuman. If you want to really see mercy, look for the service. Nothing else counts as the Lord's mercy. Look at what Hanuman is doing. Why focus on small displays of affection? Look at to whom the Lord gives opportunities for service. Why make such a big deal out of the Lord placing me on his lap and rocking me like a mother rocks the child? Look for the service. And of course, there's great truth in what Prahlad is saying. He's just bending the bhakti knowledge to deflect glories from himself. Prahlad goes on to say, actually, the whole Nrsimha Leela is to favor the demigods and to deliver Jai and Vijay. Why do you say it's all about me, Narada Muni? Lord Nrsimhadev wanted to uphold the words of Lord Brahma. He wanted to uphold the words of the four Kumaras when they cursed Jai and Vijay. These were the only reasons for his pastimes. The Lord had to fulfill the benediction of Brahma, which made for Hiranyakashipu's immunity to death in so many circumstances, but still, Hiranyakashipu had to die. And remember way back to when Prahlad was in the womb of his mother and Narada Muni was giving instruction, which the mother forgot, but Prahlad remembered. The demigods had thought, Indra especially had thought, let's terminate this situation. We've got to finish off the possibility that Hiranyakashipu's child can take birth, because if Hiranyakashipu's being so bad, we dare not imagine what his son is going to be like. We've got to do something rare and unusual. We have to terminate the situation. And then Narada Muni appeared and said, you can't kill this child no matter how you try. And just by hearing that, the demigods accepted the sound vibration, circumambulated the mother who had Prahlad in her womb and left. It's amazing the power of hearing. I was just discussing that point with some devotees yesterday. I was explaining that except for the power of hearing, we only have experience to go by in living our life. There's a popular saying that life can only be lived forward, but it can only be understood backwards. Hindsight is 20/20. You must move forward, but you really don't know what you're doing. But looking back, then you can understand, oh, I shouldn't have done this, I should have done that. Sound vibration prevents us from being massacred by such an enigma. By hearing, we can move forward with understanding. I often point out the old saying, experience is the best teacher. And I point out that so many of us have forgotten the second half of that motto. Most persons don't even know it has a second half. Experience is the best teacher because a fool will learn no other way. Most persons have never heard that. They just go on reciting, experience is the best teacher, experience is the best teacher. Are you experienced? Our method is Shabda, sound vibration. And so the demigods heard from Narada Muni and accepted. Prahlad is going to be so insistent to Narada Muni that I'm not a big deal at all. And what's the final proof? Look, Lord Nrsingadev gave me a kingdom. That shows I'm a materialist, isn't it obvious? That shows I have not received even the slightest particle of his mercy. Remember in the 7th canto Bhagavatam, when Lord Nrsingadev tempted Prahlad. I spoke a lot about this in last week's class at CNJ. He tempted Prahlad. Ask any benediction you want. It is my pastime that whoever approaches me never has to go anywhere else to ask for something. It's my pastime to fulfill all the desires of my devotees. Prahlad, ask anything you want. And according to Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Nrsingadev was pushing Prahlad again and again. Prahlad, take a material benediction. Even take Param Padam, take Vaikuntha. And again, Prahlad would say, I don't want a material benediction. I don't want. I simply want eternal devotional service to you. So after that extraordinary scene of temptation, and then Prahlad's declaring that he's simply the eternal unmotivated servant, Lord Nrsingadev says, okay, I want you to take up the role of king until the end of the reign of Manu. Go through all the motions of doing the Vedic formularies and rituals without having your bhakti heart invested into them, but just to set an example for the rest of the people. Show the proper way of good karma, while in your heart you are the bhakta. Prahlad is saying to Narada Muni that Lord Nrsingadev's ordering me to be king shows where I'm really at. Actually, though, of course, the service is one of compassion. Prahlad is going to take up his duties as king simply to show mercy to the living entities, because that's the heart of Prahlad. But Prahlad is now saying to Narada Muni, I was awarded the opportunity of being king just because I'm so attached to material opulence. That's actually certainly not the case, of course. You may remember the example of Sudama Brahmana. He visited the Lord in Dwarka and then left without apparently getting anything. His wife had urged him, go see your old childhood friend, Krishna in Dwarka. Surely he'll give something to you once he sees how poverty-stricken you are. Sudama never had it in mind to ask any material benefit from the Lord. But he thought, my wife's pushing, will give me a chance to see my old friend Krishna. That's all. So, all right, I'll act according to her prompting, but my motivation is different. And then, briefly speaking, when he left the palace and Lord Krishna walked him to the gate of the palace, when he left, apparently with nothing, he was glorifying Krishna. My Lord is so wonderful. He didn't give me a penny. He knew that if I would get from him the slightest bit of opulence, I'd fall down. How kind he is, how wonderful he is. Of course, when Sudama would return home, he'd be in for a shock. But just think, this is bhakti. Could we actually do this? My Lord didn't give me anything. Here's Sudama in such a poverty-stricken situation, and he's glorifying the Lord. He knows where I'm at. He knows the slightest bit of opulence would have finished me off. How kind he is. So this is one example given that based on Prahlad's statement, the understanding is that material opulence is not the real benediction of the Lord at all. But Prahlad is overlooking his extraordinary contribution in terms of compassion for the fallen souls and arranging as king for their elevation. Prahlad condemns himself again and again. Just see, my worship, my bhajan has been eclipsed by material attachment. Therefore, you see me in this kingship position. So these are just some of the objections raised by Prahlad Maharaj, and some of the deflections and some of the adjustments he made to what Narada Muni pointed out about his glories. And of course, Prahlad is going to pass the glories on to someone else, as what continuously happens in Bhagavatamrita. Each of these extraordinary devotees always points to someone else. That one is the real devotee. You don't know what you're talking about by glorifying me. Let me point out who has the real bhakti. All right. So I thank you so much for your kind association. I thank Nilamani Prabhu and Madan Gopal Prabhu for seemingly impossibly getting this together, because anyway, but in response to their sincerity and their dedication, I was coming out of the shower when Nilamani called me on WhatsApp. I said, I didn't receive any notice. And I said, all right, give me 10 minutes. Let me put on some tilak. Let me set up my computer. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but some other, I was able to do it by the blessings of the Vaishnavas. So I thank you all very much. And
Thank you very much, Maharaj. And thank you also, Jayadvaita Maharaj, for joining us. Jayadvaita Maharaj has been the rock of our yatra here. He's giving classes 3 times a week on this channel. And we have 8 programs on this channel during the week and we have wonderful speakers such as yourself. And I want to thank you, Maharaj, for taking us out of our miserable existence in New Jersey and transporting us to the, your wonderful adventures in Manhattan, and how you came. It was so mind-blowing and quite astounding, the mercy of the devotees and how devotees operate and do such unusual things, and they continue to do that. And we were really appreciating and how beautifully you narrated it, and how we can't take anyone for granted, no matter how educated or not educated they are, no matter what background they're coming from. These are all special souls that Krishna brings to the door. So
yes, you don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yes. So that's a lesson for me and for all of us to take home, is that always keep our hearts and doors warm and open to everyone and anyone who comes to the doorstep of Srila Prabhupada, you know.
Yes, I'm so eager to be there with you, especially with Jayadvaita Maharaj there. But I'm trapped in New Zealand. You know, they don't allow any flights. They're determined to stamp out the virus completely. What can I do? I'd love to be there with you all. For example, in Australia, if you want to try to fly out of Australia, you have to apply to the federal government. This is how strict they are. So I'm trapped and devoid of your mercy. So please forgive me.
Maharaj, firstly, I wanted to ask for forgiveness for being a little lapse. I know we set this up some time ago and somehow it just slipped my mind that I owed you a follow-up email with all of the details. So please forgive me for that mistake. But at the same time, I really wanted to appreciate such a wonderful, amazing class, and so heart-touching and warming to hear your story. It's the first time I've heard it, and it was a really, as I said, heart-touching and bringing tears to our eyes just to hear how wonderfully Srila Prabhupada's mercy can flow through to anybody and everybody, and it was truly wonderful. And thank you so much for an impromptu class, but it was really amazing. Thank you, Maharaj.
Nilamani Prabhu, just seeing your smiling, shiny face is all the payoff I need. I thank you so much.
Thank you,
All
Maharaj.
right. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I'll open it up to everyone else. If you want to say a quick Haribol to Maharaj as he leaves. Actually, I think he might have already left. Didn't give us much of a chance. Well, thank you all very much, and Haribol to all of you, and have a good night. Hare Krishna. Please join us.
Thank you very much.
Such a nice lecture. Thank you.
So sorry, I'm just
Haribol Prabhuji.
just a quick announcement for tomorrow before I open everyone up. Tomorrow we have His Grace Anuttama Prabhu at 6 p.m. Don't miss that. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj. So please be sure to join tomorrow at 6 p.m. Hare Krishna. Haribol. See you tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Good night.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Haribol, everyone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.